My name is Jennifer McCullough, and this is my speech, Operation Auca, for Communications 101. January 8, 1956 would be a day forever remembered by 5 young wives in the rest of the world. I first learned about Operation Auca through Stephen Curtis Chapman's video Beyond the Gates of Splendor, and that inspired me to learn more about the tribe and more about Operation Auca. So I read 2 of Elizabeth Elliot's books, Through the Gates of Splendor and The Savage, My Kinsman, and found an article online in Christianity Today by Carolyn Nordstrom and Catherine Long. In that article and between those books, I can show you how Operation Auca was a mission that teaches us still today how to be ambassadors for Christ. Everything I tell you will be to drive home this one point. The lives lost through Operation Auca are a testimony to the incredible power of Christ working through men and women, empowering them to be ambassadors for Christ. Today you will learn who the Aucas are, who and what Operation Auca was, and how Operation Auca changed the lives of many. To start off, let's take a journey. The Aucas were a vicious Stone Age Indian tribe found deep in the jungles of Ecuador. They're fighters. They fought with everyone, neighboring tribes, white people, inter-tribe. No one wanted to have anything to do with them. But Nate Saint, Jim Elliott, Pete Fleming, Roger Yodrian, and Ed McCullough all felt that God wanted them to know who Christ was, so they began to work together to form Operation Auca. In Elizabeth Elliot's book, Through the Gates of Splendor, she says that in September 1955 was the month in which the Lord began to weave 5 separate threads into a single glowing fabric for His glory, and Operation Auca began to take shape. They needed to make contact with the tribe, and it was deep in the jungle, so they began to make gift drops to make contact. And as they did that, from October to January, they found a place to make contact one-on-one, and they set up a camp. They were rewarded. 3 of the Auca Indians came to have a day with them on January 5th, 1956. They spent the day telling them about modern marvels, showing yo-yos, rubber bands, and they even took George for a plane ride. On January 8th, though, Nate misses his first check-in ever. On January 9th, Johnny Keegan, a fellow aviation pilot, flew over and saw Nate's plane stripped on the beachhead. And on January 10th, 1956, a search party was sent out. And The Savage, My Kinsman, Cornell Caper writes a foreword for Elizabeth Elliot, and in it he says that the search party was made up of Ecuadorian soldiers, American missionaries, and Quechan Indians. They found all the bodies in the river. They had been speared to death. As sad as that may seem, you'd think the story would end there, but it doesn't. It just begins. Rachel Saint, who was Nate's sister, Elizabeth Elliot, Jim's wife, and Dauma wanted to make contact with the Auca, so they began to pray, and they were able to do so and move into the Auca village and began to witness to them and show them the love of Christ. They were able to translate the Bible into their language. Steve Saint was able to come live with them. And the article in Christianity Today explains how Rachel Saint lived with them until her death in 1994. And Steve Saint, Nate's son, lived with the Auca for a year in 1995. Being an ambassador for Christ is delivering the message to be reconciled to God. 2 Corinthians 5:20 says, "Now then, we are ambassadors for Christ, as though God were pleading through us. We implore you on Christ's behalf, be reconciled to God." That's what these men and women did. The men gave their lives, and the women continued on with the mission to do it. You learned who the Aucas were. They were a vicious Indian tribe who had did not know of the love of Christ. Operation Auca was a combined effort of 5 men, completed by 2 women and various help afterwards to lead these men to Christ. Chemo, a killer of missionaries then, is now a God follower. Ghetto, a killer of Nate Saint then, died in 1997 as a God follower. Minka, a missionary killer then, is now the father to Steve and the grandfather to his children and a God follower. Through these deaths and through these lives, people's lives have been changed. They now know Christ, and this tribe is no longer vicious, savage people. They are God followers. In The Gates of Splendor, Elizabeth Elliot writes on her title page one of Jim Elliot's most known quotes, and he says, "He is no fool who gives what he cannot keep to gain that which he cannot lose."